This is Jane Celia Hatch, Targeted Shaman. I'm a writer, a shaman, a healer, an herbalist, and a Reiki master. And I want to talk today briefly about a man named Stephen Crowder, who I've never known, don't know anything about him until today. Apparently, he's a very popular YouTuber. And I do make social commentary when I feel it's going to be helpful for women, and it ties into the other subjects in my life. In this case, it ties into shamanism and what I call soul loss. It also ties into my life in my book and domestic violence, which I lived through. And while I was pregnant with my youngest daughter. And so this video that ABL showed, and a lot of other people are revealing all across social media, apparently, is that this man, Stephen Crowder, was emotionally abusing his wife while she was pregnant with twins. So I don't know Stephen Crowder. I watched it on ABL, which is a news channel I watch occasionally. I watch a lot of different news from across the spectrum, from both sides, but mainly YouTubers. I don't watch the main MSM at all, really. But I will watch people that I have a history of knowing. I know they're telling the truth, and I respect them. So I watched this video this morning, and it made my stomach burn, and I felt that heart rate accelerate. I felt my hands sweat. I had all of the feelings that women who have abused start to feel when the abuser is starting their repertoire, which in this case was Stephen Crowder. I think that's his last name. They were outside. I'm going to try to show you a bit of the video, but they were outside on their patio, and she's clearly very pregnant. And he was trying to manipulate her to not leaving. He was preventing her from leaving to do something simple as grocery shopping. He would not let her use the car. She's very, very vulnerable because she's pregnant. And I remember that feeling. I was pregnant, and it was with an extremely abusive partner. It's my youngest daughter's father, and this is nothing new to her. She's very aware of it, so she would not be concerned. In fact, she has been encouraging more and more to talk about this because it's not something I talk about as much as some of the other very serious issues in my life with my first husband. But I'm going to be talking more and more about it because it was equally traumatic for my youngest daughter for different reasons than my oldest daughter. So the reason I'm talking about this today is I want to say when I met my daughter's father, 26-ish years ago, more than that, probably 28. It was an unusual setting. I was at an herbal class, which we kind of think in our head, that's not where we're going to meet a violent man. So again, that's because I'm in my head. Whatever you think about in your head is not necessarily the truth. What the truth is what you feel in your gut. So already I was thinking this was going to be a very safe place. So we were at the first class. It was way out in the wilderness in Maine. This woman sort of lived in a hut. She was like a pagan herbalist. I learned a lot from her. So the class was fine, but this person came down this dirt road without a shirt, carrying a drum. I think when I saw him, he had crystals in his hair. There was a real key in for me because in my mind, abusive men were like my mother's husband, which I would have nothing to do with. I was like, how could she ever be with him? He's so horrible. And everything about him repelled me. So I had in my mind also a stereotype of the abusive man. And it was more like my mother's generation of men. And it also, at that point, I was sort of like, it's white man. But that was a fallacy, because once you get old and you expand and you have more and more experiences, you realize it's not even men necessarily, it's the patriarch, and women are becoming more just as abusive as we see in some political arenas as men. So it's really the the a human with the heart shut down or so infected with fear and pain and misery that they're spouting all of that on another human being. But anyway, my idea was not this man who was at an herb class in the 80s in the middle of a flower field, um, carrying a drum. So immediately I'm in my head because at that point I hadn't done all my healing. And I was also living in still a lot of fear from my childhood abuse. And this is where a lot of the problem comes for women when they get into abusive relationships, is they've been repeatedly traumatized in childhood. And from a shamanic point of view, they've also had repeated soul loss, which I had. And when you have repeated soul loss, you are less and less and less in your body, in your gut instinct, in your power center, and feeling exactly what's happening and being able to respond, responsible for your environment. Because in a way, you're not even in your environment. You're part of your soul. I probably had 3, 4. I think by the time I went to a shaman, I had 5 soul losses. I wasn't operating completely with half of my spirit, but I had lost it repeatedly. And then when the custody issue came, I had more soul loss. So I was, definitely a Demeter wandering the world, crying out for my children, and only not having any sort of rudder or stability. And so, but at this point, I was a young woman, 34, 35 at that point, and I had not recovered from childhood trauma, which also included losing my mother and a lot of abuse from other people in my life, including sexual abuse. So, and so I'm making the comparison to Steve Crowder's wife too. And many women that get into abuse, that they have had often some kind of trauma that has taken them out of their body. So what does that mean? If you have your mind, why is it so important that your spirit is outside of you? Well, because your spirit connects you with your shaman center and your gut center, and thus your connection with the universal consciousness and your deep body knowledge. So if I had been totally grounded, I probably would have been like the people around me that were dispelled by him, and said, I was drawn on, I was almost drawn in. I was almost like a match had been made for me somewhere in the, satanic world. I think it was a curse that brought him in to deliberately destroy my life. And they knew what would bring me in. It would be someone I thought was spiritual, an herbalist, connected to Native American, the earth. He had been an activist and trying to stop cutting down trees, and on and on and on and on. So I did. The truth is, I did have a reaction to him in the pit of my stomach, but I reasoned it out with my head, because I was reasoning, no, he's not like my mother's husband. He's not like all those abusive guys. He's an activist. He's an herbalist. He's a gardener. He has a drum. He's into the goddess. He's into everything. And so I kept pushing it back down. So if I had had soul retrievals by then, well, first of all, if I had had soul retrieval earlier in my life, I wouldn't even be probably in that position. I might have been in that position, but I would never have continued the relationship with him, because no matter what my head was saying, I would have gone, this doesn't feel right. And other people around me were very concerned, because right away, and this is my life. I'm not saying you're going to get a curse. Because I was a shaman and working for the light attracts the dark in equal proportions and measure. So I was also putting out light in the universe. So the dark was moving into me even more, because they want to push you back in. They don't want the light, because negativity, evil, Satanism, it lives off of torture and fear. So, and I was a threat, especially in Maine at that point. So here I was, in the middle of this incredible setting with a very, very dangerous, he was dangerous in many ways. He was also a sorcerer, and he was violent. The leader of the class did say to me something like, there's a lot of rumors around that he'd stolen tools. And he got onto that quickly. He said, "Oh, the woman's jealous that spread the rumor." That's a typical saying of a narcissist or someone abusive. When there's reports of negativity, they say, "Oh, it's the people are jealous of me. The people are," and that's actually what my daughter's stepmother, who ended up, I realized, was a psychopath, used that a lot. People are jealous of her. I'm jealous of her. That's why I'm saying she's abusing my daughters. I'm trying to hurt her because I'm jealous of her. So that's a common practice for people who are truly evil and are doing awful things, and people are reporting them. They'll say, "Oh, they're jealous." So I had that gut instinct. So you can't, your body is still responding, but I was in my head, because that's where a lot of us go when we've had soul loss. We go into our head, we're computing everything to our head because it's too scary to go into our body. So I was opening up to him, and he was moving in very quickly on me, and everyone, the 3 or 4 other herbal apprentices noticed it. And they were concerned, but I felt like they didn't see him. They didn't really know who he was. But I ended up having a long-term relationship with him, and we had a daughter, and he became abusive pretty quickly within 6 months. Before that, he was cultivating me with everything under the sun that he felt right, that he felt would attract me. And for every woman, that's different, that you key on what you need, whether it's security or spirituality or whatever. So he was continually, comparing me to a mountain and a goddess. And he was doing, making sweat lodges and all that. And even though when I was near him, my gut hurt, and it's not just that you can feel it and don't respond. Another huge thing with women who've lived through trauma is that you don't believe yourself. You don't believe that you could possibly be having a feeling that's real and right, and you can walk away. My father undermined every single feeling I had, that it was worthless, it had no value. And so, for most of my life, if I had a feeling that come up, I'd push it back down, unless it corresponded with this mental image I had that of the world. So when I saw this video today, it really got to me. And I will try to show it. So just a trigger warning: if you've lived through domestic violence or you've lived through emotional violence, you might not want to watch it, or just be prepared. It's not anything physically violent, but it's emotional violence. And when I watched it, I was her. I was right there with her, with a baby in my stomach, and trying to protect the baby. Do you protect the baby by leaving him, or do you protect the baby by staying? Your mind, you've gone into survival level, and I can see it in her too. She's saying, like, I'll ask someone to pick me up, and she's in survival level, and all of that fear is going right into the baby. And I know it more than ever now, because my own daughter is still processing out everything that went on. Nothing goes unfelt by the baby in the womb and the young child. So if you think your children, your baby isn't acknowledging it, and thank God they weren't here, they are. They're feeling every single thing. So you need to get out as soon as possible. And one of my major reasons for doing this is don't get in. Listen to your gut instinct. Listen to that that feeling deep down, not emotion, because I thought emotion was intuition. It's not. Emotion can be coming from all different archetypes within you, like the wounded inner child, or the savior, or the this, the that, the that. Our yes, emotion is important in directing us, but sometimes it can be coming from a very wounded part of ourselves if you're not totally healed. So, but intuition is deeper. It's the pit of your stomach. If you just walk away, you can save yourself decades of pain, especially if you have a child. You can't get away from them, and the court systems are awful. More and more and more, they're demanding equal custody to abusive parents, abusive men, often, not always, but often. And you will be forced for the rest of your life until they're adult and even after to be in the company of this abusive man. So walk away, like trust yourself, trust your gut instinct, save yourself a life of trauma and pain. Walk away from any man that you get a gut instinct on the first date. You can walk away. The gut instinct will be there. If you've had a lot of trauma, get help before you get into a relationship. Get soul retrieval, get centered. Most women are not really ready for relationships even in their early 20s, because there's so much abuse in our culture of women and children and girls. Don't get into a relationship. If you do, if you feel something deep down, if he says something off, but you start to oh, he didn't mean it. No, he meant it. You're getting signals. Maybe your guides are trying to help you. They're warning you. They're giving you images. Listen, walk away. It's easy. By then, they don't have their talent in you, but it doesn't take long. 1-2 weeks, a month, less. They've got you. So I'm just going to show this. And again, trigger warning. So this is ABL. I just watch him once in a while. I like him. I've seen him for a couple of years and I trust him. So this is Steve Crowder emotionally abusing his wife. His statement. Hillary Crowder's family says she hid his emotionally abusive behavior for you, which is what most women do. So this is Steve Crowder and his wife, Hillary, in their looks like very luxurious home. Nothing's worth it. Believe me, nothing is worth it. So here it is. This is a conversation. She's pregnant.
Unless it's something obvious, like, okay, she in the backyard killing puppies or something like that. The family would come to their love when she was 8 months pregnant.
She says she's 8 months pregnant.
Then I will go pick up the groceries. What pellets? My grill. I know it's not unreasonable, but I'll go do it. How about you first?
I could see her she's trying to get out. It says you're not taking the car. She's trying to survive.
Okay, they have one car, and she's trying to go run an errand, and he's like, hey, you can't have the car. This is a control mechanism. See their house. It's not a bad looking house. They live in a nice big house. He has enough money to buy her another car. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I got 2 cars. I live by myself. So why can't he have another car for her? It's a control mechanism.
Yeah, he's right.
You know the reason why I know he can afford it?
I had my keys taken from me several times.
YouTuber, has a lot of money. And you see his nice big house right here. But right around this same time, when this video was recorded, when she was pregnant, he had left her. He left her, and she had the twins by herself. He was not there with the wife.
I'm going to move it ahead a bit.
Does with other people. I'm going to come right back to this. Here is a former Lottery crop. Still do the video. It's like, let's go ahead and do it. What's the point in contact?
I'm going to stop that because you can find it yourself. It's all over the internet. But my stomach just went into a knot, and I felt that fear, and I felt the heart pounding, and I felt I could see, especially she's pregnant. She's trying to protect herself. She's trying to protect her unborn baby. She's saying things like, I'll have someone pick me up. Who do you want me to have? Who would you like me to call to pick me up? I know that it's like another survival. You're trying to give him some power, but you're still trying to get out. So anyway, after I watched it, I wanted to share that. I remember in the 80s there was a feminist, Clarissa St. Pinkham. She wrote a book that was famous back then called The Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I remember a line that became famous. She said, wolf pups have more power given to them by their mother to survive than women, young girls and women, because we're taught to be polite. We're taught to make everything okay, to placate, to just make things run smoothly, and part of that often is sacrificing ourselves. So what we need to do is just bring out the talents and the voice and the everything, to like when you feel that gut instinct, you're in the presence of danger, you have the capability, listen to yourself, you're powerful. Save yourself decades of pain, save your children decades of pain. You will never totally recover. You recover to degrees, but see, even I, decades later, I can still feel the heart pounding. My daughter's still trying to heal. It's been 26 years. She's still healing from the abuse that I experienced when she was in the womb. Walk away. There'll be someone else. We don't have to be in relationships all the time, like every romance movie and every book tells us. We're very well, we're much better on our own. Walk away when you feel that. I felt it and I didn't walk away. Often because I was already in a horrible situation, because I wasn't in my gut about my first husband. He wasn't bad in the same way, but it was bad. It was very, very bad. I went through my life not responding to my gut instinct because I didn't believe in myself. I'm telling you, from now on, listen. Take my word for it. Listen. Walk away. It takes a minute to completely transform your life and put it back onto a right path. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Get a soul retrieval. Get into therapy, EMDR, if you've had a lot of trauma, and stay out of relationships. I mean, be friends, but that's it. Don't let people into your private life. Don't let men into your body, your home, your relationships. Protect yourself. The goddess is the most valuable energy on the planet. We bring life onto the planet. Make sure, stop the abuse. Have it stop with you. Listen to yourself. So I'm sorry I didn't show you a lot of that video, but I think you got the idea. She was pregnant. He was telling her she couldn't go anywhere. She couldn't go shopping. She couldn't even call anyone. And he's all on the internet right now, just talking about, I could tell when he first started to defend himself, he was guilty, because he was already starting to say things about her that weren't direct criticism, but they were indirect. And he started saying things about the children that were weird. So anyway, I felt motivated to do this video. Stop the abuse. If we can't stop it with men, we can stop it with us. It just stops there. It all means listening to your gut. Listen to the feeling in the pit of your stomach, not the heart, because if you've had abuse, it's wounded. Listen to your gut and to your shamans. So anyway, it snowed here in the mountains. That's why I'm wearing flannel. I had all my summer stuff out, and it was snowing, and it's been a cold spring, and it's very strange. And so I had to bring out my winter clothes again, but now the sun's out. I have a hard time too with quick changes in weather. It makes me anxious. So I'm a little anxious. It's sunny, but it was just dark and snowing an hour ago, like very dark. I took a couple pictures of in my kitchen of my flowers on my windowsill, looking out over the snow. Maybe I'll put them below. If you can subscribe. YouTube has taken the subscribe button. I emailed them, asked them to put it back. I'm going to put my Twitter below. I think my Twitter is very compromised. I don't even get one like in 6 months. So something's going wrong there. So if you can go to Twitter and just as an experiment for me, just say, hi, Jane, I'm from your YouTube, and just to see what's going on there. And if you want to subscribe and you can't, just say in the comments below, yes, I'd like to subscribe. And then I will find you when the subscribe button is back. So we're coming to the end of April, beginning of May. Time for me for gardening and planting and making flower essences, which are on my website, Bethesda Star Organics. If you're interested in flower essences, they work on the energy level, the way you think, everything that's going on up here, they transform that. And that's on my website, Bethesda Star Organics. So love to you all, and listen to your gut instinct, believe in yourself. And that's how the abuse stops. It stops when we say no. Love.